retro ghetto.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Retro Ghetto. So just this past week I went on a fantastic video game hunt to what I believe is the UK's video game hunting capital, the West Midlands. As you would have seen on Sunday's vlog, I went to some amazing shops, got some great games. There was, however, one shot's worth of footage that I omitted from the vlog, simply because of the amount of video games I picked up from there. 2 carrier bags to be exact. There's so many games that I felt I would have been doing them a disservice to have shown them on the vlog, so I decided to give them their own video. I got 2 bags full of 16-bit retro goodness in what was probably the best haul I've ever had in one go from one shop. That shop in question is, of course, Old Skoop Gaming in Brierley Hill. Shout out to the owner, Rich. Take a look at this.
Well, you know about retro ghetto, collecting and playing retro. Street Fighter on the Nintendo. I'm a veteran at this, not pro. Lock into the retro ghetto. Come and have a look around in the ghetto. We got Sonic and Staples Settle. Lock into the retro ghetto.
I don't play games with my son PlayStation. Man at old school like an Atari gamer. Tiger, hit man with the Tiger Flamer. This shit reality, not like Sega, Dreamcast, Mega Drive, one Master System, N64 and Super Nintendo, we missed them. And if man wanna challenge on Tekken, I'll twist them.
So as you've seen on the footage, the shop is full, floor to ceiling, wall to wall of fantastic and hard to attain video games, and I'm going to be showing more footage of the shop throughout this video, but let's jump straight into these pickups, right, because there's a lot to get through. I've kind of done this in the standard YouTuber reverse order, right? They kind of get better as it goes on, but there's a lot of very, very nice games here that I'm very happy to add to my collection. The first is probably the most underwhelming of them all, but I do have a lot of nostalgia for this game. More so for the box art than anything, simply because I remember this art so vividly as a child, and that is Super Kickoff. So as I say, this 1991 Anco developed football game is huge nostalgia for me. Definitely one that I remember playing either on the Mega Drive or the Super Nintendo. I can't really remember, but that box art definitely has a place in my mind. It's very similar to Sensible Soccer in the fact that it's done in a vertical top-down view. Admittedly, it's not as good as Sensible Soccer. And what I find quite unusual about the Kickoff franchise on the Super Nintendo is that there's seemingly no Kickoff 2. I've got Kickoff, there's Kickoff 3, which on its own is quite unusual because it's called European Challenge, yet there's a Brazilian football player on the front. I don't know. It was the 90s, right? We let a lot more things slide. But yeah, I have no clue what happened to Kickoff 2, but I cannot find anything about it. Seemingly it's not part of the Super Nintendo library, so let me know in the comments if you know anything about that one. But yeah, it's like I say, it was a lesser title that I picked up, but one that holds a lot of nostalgia for me. And if you are going for a full set, you know, you got to grab them all when you see them. However, not all football games have such low value, and this next one is a prime example of that. This is a game that I've been after for a long time. It's very hard to come across, especially on the Super Nintendo. It is a lot more widely available on the Mega Drive, but you just don't see this game. And that is International Sensible Soccer Limited Edition. This game got a 1994 release in conjunction with the USA 94 World Cup, which unfortunately for English fans means that, yeah, there's no England on this, as it only contains teams that qualified for the tournament. Other than the 32 international teams, I don't think there's too many differences between this and the previous iteration of Sensible Soccer. But as I say, it's just one that is very hard to come by. There's no listings available for this on eBay currently. There's none sold, and CEX don't even have this game as its separate listing. They've only got Sensible Soccer. I believe there is a listing for this version on the Mega Drive, but yeah, for some reason on the Super Nintendo, it's just one of them games that, yeah, it's almost like you wouldn't have existed unless you knew, right? But again, maybe the fact that England didn't qualify for the tournament kind of had an effect on sales in this country and could explain as to why it's so scarce, but very, very happy to be adding International Superstar Soccer Limited Edition to the collection. Right, let's deviate from the Super Nintendo for a short period of time and look at the other 16-bit powerhouse from that era, of course, the Sega Mega Drive. As you can see from the footage, there was an absolute plethora of Mega Drive games within Old Skoop Gaming, and I took my time to go through the shelves. I went hunting with my friend Kev, who did manage to pick up some fantastic Mega Drive games, but thankfully he did leave 1 or 2 gems on the shelves for me. As you can see, I was going through the fine-tooth comb, and I was very happy to find a copy of Power Drive. This Rage Software 1994 rally racer is set across multiple international locations. And as you'll be seeing on screen now, the camera angle is very similar to that of Micro Machines. For me, it's very reminiscent of the camera angle, the height, and also the fact that you can't see too much of what's coming ahead, which adds to both the difficulty but also the replayability value of a game like this. Maybe if you could see a little bit further ahead, it might make the game too easy and it might lose some of its charm. One of the other things that I really enjoy about Power Drive is that you have to earn money. The more money that you earn, you can then, as you would imagine, purchase more cars, enter races, etc, etc. Total actually ranked this game 43rd in the top 100 Super Nintendo games, and I never actually had any idea that this game was available on the Super Nintendo. I'm more than happy with my Mega Drive copy. As viewers of the channel will know, I'm currently building a Sega Mega Drive wall, so I'm happy to get my hands on as many fantastic Mega Drive games that I don't already own as possible. But yeah, I had no idea until researching for this video that this was available on the Super Nintendo. It's quite rare on that console, but ultimately not as rare as this game is on the Game Gear. On the Sega Game Gear, this game fetches well over £1,000, but I'm more than happy with my Mega Drive copy of Power Drive. After perusing the shelves within Old Skoop Gaming, I unsurprisingly made my way back to Super Nintendo. And guys, I got a mega haul of fantastic games. Some of these games I've been genuinely hunting for years. I'm delighted to finally have them within my possession. I'm going to show them in like a reverse price order, right? So cheapest to most expensive. That is based on the CEX listed price. Simply because I don't really know individually what I paid for these games. Because I bought so many, it was all sort of bundled into one. I also traded a couple of bits in from my own collection. So yeah, we're going to do this based on CEX. But that ultimately only tells part of the story. Because the cheapest game here listed at CEX that I still need to show is actually one of the most expensive games. Simply because it's very hard to find. It's never in stock at CEX. And the eBay price is far, far higher than what you will find on the high street. And that game is Wild and Wacky Sports. So to give it its full title, it's Tiny Toons Wild and Wacky Sports, and as I say, this is a very uncommon one. This is the only copy I've ever actually seen in person. The cheapest one on eBay currently is £150, and the only sold version of this I could find on eBay was sold in Germany for €100. This is a Konami developed 1995 sports party game, and it is of course based on the Tiny Toon Adventures cartoons. It plays a bit like a Mario or Sonic Olympics game. You pick a character and you perform various events. This does actually feature 4-player multi-tap compatibility, which is rare for games of that era. It's very fun, it's very rare, by all accounts it's a good game. However, do you know what it is for me? It's pink. Look how bright and pink that box is. I mean, I'm easily pleased. You guys know that I love displaying my games, I love creating my games room, and I love displaying the box art, which is why I've dedicated so much of the real estate in my room to forward-facing games. And I don't know any other game which is that bright, yeah? This vivid pink colour, it's always made this one stand out to me. As I say, a very hard one to be able to find out there, and I'm just absolutely delighted to be adding this, not only to my collection, but on the wall. Right, okay, the next game that I picked up was Ultraman. Ultraman is a one-on-one fighter developed by Nova and based on the TV series from Japan, originally aired in 1966. There was also a more contemporary series, I believe, in America in 1992. This is, as I say, a one-on-one fighter. I know very, very little about this franchise. Fortunately, I know a man that knows a lot more.
So like Callum just mentioned, Ultraman is a show that's been going since the 1960s and is actually still being made and broadcast to this very day. It's a TV show that falls under the category of something called tokusatsu, which translates to special effects in Japanese, but is also the word that's used to describe a certain type of superhero show with heroes in helmets and mad suits doing martial arts, fighting dudes in monster suits. Probably the most well known of all time being Power Rangers, or Super Sentai if you live in Japan. Now, although Ultraman is an IP that's been very sparsely showcased over here in the Western world compared to stuff like Pokemon and Godzilla, in Japan it's still one of the most popular franchises of all time. And when you're out in Tokyo, you literally can't go 10 minutes without seeing some kind of Ultraman branding or merchandise somewhere. They're one of the most popular action figures for Japanese toy collectors like me to be out on the hunt for. And very much like something like the Ninja Turtles would be over here, if you can put his face on it and you can market it, you can probably find it. So whether it's a toy or a backpack or some kind of household merchandise or a video game, you can probably get an Ultraman version of it. The TV show itself is very wacky, it's a lot of fun, there's lots of like really crazy innovative creature designs in it and that kind of thing, and it also gets pretty violent in parts as well. If you type it into YouTube, there's lots of episodes on there, so I would definitely recommend checking it out because obviously it's one of Japan's most popular franchises for a reason. Hope that helps. Back to you, brother.
Much appreciated, Theo. From a man that is nuts about toys, it now seems only right to discuss a game which to me was a failed CEX lottery. I finally found a decent copy of it, and that is Mr. Nutz. Yes, you play as Mr. Nutz, an anthropomorphic red squirrel, as he journeys 6 themed levels to ultimately defeat Mr. Blizzard, a yeti who is trying to take over the world by turning it into a block of ice. By all accounts, this is one of the better sort of left to right side-scrolling action platformers on the Super Nintendo, of which there's a lot. But yeah, I love these kind of games. There's so many of them, but they just remind me of my childhood. When I was younger, if I was going to sit down and play a game, I just really wanted any game that was within that sort of Mario mold, right? I wanted games that I'd be able to pick it up and play. I knew what I was doing. There was a jump button. I was going from here to there. And yeah, that simplicity is just very much nostalgic to me, and happy to finally be adding a nice copy of Mr. Nutz to the collection. Right, okay, so for this next one, it only seemed right to bring my friend Marvin, who coincidentally I bought from Old Skoop Gaming on a previous visit. But yeah, I thought it was important to have him here for this one. The next pickup is Daffy Duck, The Marvin Missions. In this game, you play as Daffy Duck's alter ego, Duck Dodgers, who comes from the 24th and a half century. In this 1994 action platformer, you can utilise 5 gun varieties over 20 levels. There's also jetpacks, shields and other various tools at your disposal. And whilst this one is officially an action platformer, it does have a lot of run and gun elements to it, as you'll be seeing on the on-screen video now. To my surprise, this has become a very expensive game. I couldn't find a listing for this one on eBay for less than £80. And yeah, I'm a big fan of cartoons. I grew up watching the Looney Tunes. As you'll be able to see on screen now, my cartoon section of the Super Nintendo wall is growing very nicely. This is a very welcomed addition to that section, and two of the things I'm most nostalgic for, right? Cartoons, Super Nintendo games. Yeah, this just makes me happy. Right, okay, we finally got to the bottom of the extensive video game carrier bag. And the last game in here is one I've been after for a long time. Not only because it's become a hard game to find, not only because it's become very expensive. I couldn't find a listing for this or a sold listing for this for less than £175. But more importantly, it's just a game that I really want to play. I've seen a lot of footage of this game over recent years, and yeah, it's just one that I can't wait to pick up and experience for myself. And that is Super Pang. Also known as Super Buster Brothers in the American region, this cooperative two-player shooting puzzle game was originally a 1990 arcade classic. It was later ported to Super Nintendo by Capcom in late 1992, and as you can see on screen, it just looks like a fun time. It's such a simple premise, right? You shoot balloons, I think they divide by 2 until ultimately they go. There's obviously different power-ups and different enemies, etc. on the screen that you have to navigate your way through, and obviously it increases in difficulty over time. As I say, this is one of them games I've watched quite a lot of gameplay of, and I've just always wanted to pick it up and play it for myself, but because of how hard to find and how expensive this game's become, it was just always kind of put on the back burner. But now I can finally sit down and play a bit of Super Pang, and yeah, I'm just really happy to be adding this to the collection. And for me, that now finalises what was probably the best haul I've ever had from one shop on one given day. I think we've got, what, 8 16-bit classics. Now, if you watch the channel, you know I always have a saying. Any day I can add a Super Nintendo game to the collection is a good day. Well, how about 7 and a Mega Drive game? Yeah, I'm just absolutely delighted. Not only to now own these games, but equally I'm looking forward to getting the stickers off them, cleaning them, curating them, making them look nice in my games room, and of course, ultimately, sitting down and playing some of them. Let me know in the comment section which of these games would be highest on your list. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Play your games, keep it retro. I'll see you on Sunday. Take care.
You're watching the Retro Ghetto.
Ghetto.
Ghetto!
Yeah.
Lock into the retro ghetto.